Welcome to Florida Gators Live, episode number 54. It is officially Tennessee week. And Tyler, this feels so weird having Tennessee this late in the season, and Tucker having us this late in the season for you guys, because didn't this used to be played on the 3rd September?
Yeah,
The third Saturday of September?
Yeah, this happened in like the COVID year. Florida played
Mhm.
Tennessee in like December, like the first week of December or something weird like that. But yeah, aside from that, I don't think. And then the one they made up in 2001. But beyond that, those are the only two can think of that were not early in the season like that.
yeah. At least in our lifetimes, that's the
Yeah.
case. Because I know they played later on in the 1950s, like back when they didn't play every single year. But you're right about that one that was scheduled in December because of the COVID season. I remember I was actually at that game. I thought to myself, at the beginning of the season, maybe Tennessee has a better shot because it's later in the year. Turned out Jeremy Pruitt was on his way out, so Tennessee had already thrown the season away by that point.
Yep.
Yeah. Get into a comment before the show here. Sam, good evening, y'all. Another tough loss, but it seems like we don't have quit in us. Let's win these last 2 rivalry games in the swamp and build momentum for next season with a new coach. Yeah, we didn't do our show last night. I was at the game in Oxford and late night, and we're all busy here, so we were busy, so we couldn't do a show last night. So, Tyler, I want to get your quick opinions on the game.
Yeah.
I thought, we showed great effort. It was like we didn't look elite in any places. It's like I didn't look at that game and be like, we were clearly better than Ole Miss at that spot. We just had a few big plays, had an interception. That's kind of how a lot of our games have gone, and then lose it in the end.
Yeah, I mean, look, Florida's for the most part played up to its good opponents this year, and they did that again on Saturday night. Like I think I am Sam kind of nailed it in that comment. I mean, I picked the Ole Miss to win like 35-17. I kind of thought the team had quit. That clearly is not the case. That clearly was not the case. You know what I mean? They pretty clearly still have fight in them. They wanted to go out and win that game. Maybe it was the lane factor. We'll get into that later, but. Obviously a team tried. So, I mean, obviously disappointing result would have been awesome to win that game for a couple of reasons. But ultimately, like, they came out and competed, it was a game all throughout, more than I expected it would be. So I'm ultimately not too upset about that.
The game was almost I kind of predicted that game very well. I predicted it to be, I think, 17-17 at half, instead it was 24-20. And then I said we would just get like one field goal in the second half, and they would probably get a couple touchdowns. And we were up 24-20 at half, and then we ended up losing 34-24. So, we didn't kick an extra field goal in the second half, but we had an extra touchdown. So in the first. So, hey, I was pretty spot on with that game. That's nice to see. But Tucker, welcome to the show. If you want to introduce yourself, tell people where they can find you. Let's just go ahead and do that.
Yeah. So first and foremost, appreciate you guys for having me on for this Florida Tennessee week. I'm always dreading it. Let's just put it that way. Just the way things go for Tennessee most years. But so I am the Tennessee affiliate here on the Voice of College Football Network. We have our show every Monday at 8 Eastern time, typically, although we're pushing that up an hour tomorrow because of a basketball game for the same reason you guys are tonight. So we will be doing that. We've got our post-game show. That is live after every game. We will be live sometime late on Saturday night after the game ends because it is a night game down there in the swamp. I also realized Tyler and I have a couple things in common. Not you, Tyler Whitfield. We both work for the College Wire Network. I'm on Vols Wire. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I actually didn't realize that. That's
fun. I am the recruiting guy for that site, so I follow all the recruiting there, pump out all that content during the week, and then I keep an eye on the Vols and the pros. Not doing that as much right now, just with NFL and not always tweeting about different or posting articles about different guys and what they're doing week to week. I do more for baseball though. As that number is beginning to increase. So yeah, we're doing all that stuff there. It's been really, really fun. And that's where you can find my work. Obviously at Tucker Harlan on X, you can find me there. I'm probably tweeting something about the Vols. So, or the Titans. The Titans are what gives me my personality. I'm a little more analytical toward the Vols, but I fan out over the Titans, and I got to tell you right now, I'm pretty angry with just about everything there, except, and here's the one thing we're probably going to agree on tonight, Chim DK. I love Chim DK. That dude, because all the people in the Titans media realm were just like, oh, this guy should not be our punt returner. He's a rookie coming out of college. We've not had any promise with those guys in the past. But you pair him with a good special teams coordinator like Bones Fossil, and you can see the magic happen. He scored the Titans' first punt return touchdown 2 weeks ago in 13 years. Wow. So we love that around in Titans land up here. The few and the few of us and those of us that are brave enough to watch their games every Sunday. I know we still haven't played the Jaguars yet. I'm not getting my hopes up. We're just playing for draft position at this point. So, but yeah, we can agree to both enjoy Chim DK here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember he had a couple of good punt returns against you guys last year in our overtime game.
He did.
Yeah. And I mean, Tyler and I are both Jags fans, and I was not seeing what we did today coming.
No,
I kind of.
I thought we were.
I gave up hope. I gave up hope after we blew a 19-point fourth quarter lead.
Yeah, 100%.
And you mentioned it. We still play you guys twice. We play the Jets. We play the Cardinals. Like, in theory, we should make the playoffs. But it's not going to overstep here.
Yeah,
got to win the games we should. But if you got a shot, we're back in it. I thought it was over last week, but it's not over.
No, but I guess let's get into this Florida versus Tennessee game here, do a preview. I'm going to be honest, Tucker. I didn't look at the score. You guys played New Mexico or New Mexico State?
New Mexico State, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
New Mexico State. Yeah, New Mexico is actually pretty solid. So New Mexico State makes a bit more sense. But can you tell me the scores of that game?
All right, 42-9 was the score of this game.
Mm-hmm.
First time Tennessee has not allowed more than 10 points in a game this year, courtesy of a missed extra points in garbage time. But to be completely honest, outside of the defensive play from this team, which has been lacking for a lot of the season, I think the offense was a little bit disinterested in this game. I don't really think that's going to carry over to next week. It's just one of those things where, like, you got to get rid of the late season bye games, which is what they're doing next season in the SEC, and I'm thankful for that because, like, I had an opportunity to go to that game, and I was like, there's just so many other great games on TV. Like, I'd rather sit at home and watch Texas A&M, South Carolina before I knew that would be a great game. Yeah. And then, later on that night, watch Ole Miss play Florida like you guys did. Mizzou, Mississippi State was a decent game at times. And then Georgia and Texas, I should say, that one was phenomenal as well for a little bit. So, yeah, why would you go and spend time in that game, drive 3 hours there, 3 hours back, and then just to see a game that your team's probably going to win big, but probably not care a ton about. So I guess happy homecoming for the Vols. That's about all I got on that game.
Sam, so Joe Aguilar had 2 picks in that game.
He did.
Didn't realize that.
He did. One of them was on a low throw where the DB stepped up and made a play. Poor Miles Kitzelman, man, our starting tight end. He has been right next to at least 4 of those interceptions this year that Joey has thrown. He tipped 2 of them in the Mississippi State game into the hands of defenders indirectly. And then in the other interception, I think he got hit as he threw, just trying to make a big play down the field. So a lot of the interceptions this year have been forced by defenders making good plays, but there have been a few, like say the ones in the Oklahoma game, and then in the one in Tuscaloosa that are more squarely on him. Although I think going to Alabama, that interception I think was more an effect of bad management of a game at that point in time, which is something we will get into later, I'm sure.
Yeah, and this is perfect because I kind of want to start off talking about our defense against your guys' offense. Oh, sorry, no, I had it reversed. That's my fault. No, I wanted to talk about our offense against your defense. It's kind of the weaker spot of both of our teams here. And if we look at Florida's offense, Florida's offense having the explosiveness in the game against Ole Miss last night. It was a bit of a surprise. Now, Ole Miss defense is not that great or that good even. It's played well at times, but, gave up a score on every drive to Georgia, allowed Oklahoma to hit some explosive plays on them as well. But Florida's offense really had not done much all year besides the Texas game and a little bit against A&M, but Georgia, couple plays, and then just shut down by Kentucky. So I wasn't really expecting anything against Ole Miss, but Lagway was able to find some deep shots to keep us in that game. And I know Tennessee's defense is also a pretty big question, kind of like Ole Miss's. And maybe it's something we can repeat and hit some big plays in your defense again, like we did last night.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out too, because Florida, I can never get a feel for Florida. It doesn't matter the year, unless they're just really good. When Florida is not having a good year, they are never truly a bad football team. I've seen 3 different Tennessee teams lose to Florida in the Swamp, where Florida had losing seasons within the last 15 years. And granted, 2 of those seasons, Tennessee was not good. The other one, the most recent one in 2023, Tennessee was at least an 8-win team at the regular season, won a Citrus Bowl. I do not know what to think about DJ Lagway this season. Like, he's in that group of quarterbacks with Lenoris Sellers and Arch Manning, where there's all this talk about the upside and what this guy can do when he's at the highest of his highs, but the lows are lower than any other quarterback in the SEC. See the LSU game this year and those 5 interceptions. Like, it can get ugly with him. Now, Tennessee defensively, there's been a few different things that I think have been problematic. I don't think scheme is a huge problem for this team. It's more about personnel and fundamentals at this point, because they don't tackle well. They haven't tackled well for most of the season. And then when you look at the personnel problems, one of the issues this year is they're just thin on the interior defensive line. They have talent. They've just been thin for a lot of the season. Like, you got 2 pretty good starters, and then everybody else is a young guy who, again, I think they're all talented, but it's just going to take some time for those guys to get acclimated and get really good in the system. And then you look at the secondary, the personnel has been a real problem there for a lot of the season. 2 cornerbacks, actually, at the moment. You've got Jermon McCoy, who blew out his ACL in a workout back in January. And then you got Ricky Gibson, who got injured in that game against Syracuse and has not returned for this season. They keep teasing that McCoy is going to return at some point this season, which feels very stupid to do at this point. Like, at this point, he's still a late first rounder in the mock drafts. Just go on your merry way at this point, I feel like. So that's been
a similar situation.
Yeah, that's been a real problem for Tennessee this year. The injuries there. The safety depth, particularly free safety, has not been good this season for Tennessee. Need to portal there a little bit. They did take a loss in the portal with Jacoby Thomas leaving after the spring. That I think was probably the more effective of the notable losses in the spring for Tennessee, more than the one at quarterback, which you covered up with Joey Aguilar. But and then there's another problem too in the secondary that I've yet to address. And it boiled over today, as you guys might have seen, with Boo Carter officially being dismissed from the Tennessee football team. He's claiming that he was injured in entering the portal by choice, and in reality, that's not the case. We'll talk about this more on the Tennessee show tomorrow night, but there are a lot of layers to this situation. It's been developing since June or July. But this has been a problem for a while. We kind of knew he was a dead man walking here, and he's finally being pushed out the door. But this was a guy that could have been an all-SEC caliber player had he, stayed the course and done what he needed to do to get back on the field. And he's just he's been disinterested the entire season. They didn't even play him at defensive back against Oklahoma. They just let him return punts. Yesterday, not only did he not return punts, he was hurt, so to speak. We don't know if he was actually hurt, but he wasn't at the stadium. And they couldn't get a hold of him until sometime today. Heupel was pretty displeased in the press conference last night when asked about that. He was basically saying there's a certain standard you have to meet to be in that locker room, and that's the last comment I'll have on that situation, and he dismissed him today. Why on earth they let that play out over the course of an entire season, I don't know. But, yeah, there have been a multitude of problems for Tennessee in the secondary this year. It's not all injury related. Part of it's depth, and then part of it is a guy just having his head in places he shouldn't.
I'm going to be honest. I had not seen that.
No, I hadn't either.
You messaged me saying the Boo Carter situation. I just assumed there was probably some more drama because I remember in the preseason, Tyler, we were talking about, hey, this is someone that might not even play this year. with all the transfer talk. But our feed's been pretty compact the last 24 hours with drama, football, and Lane Kiffin. So
yeah,
that's
you guys
something
have
that
bigger fish to fry.
somehow just. And I've been in a car for 11 hours today, and I didn't see that once on Twitter. So that's just how compact Florida's Twitter is. But yeah, Tyler, you got something to say?
Yeah, well, I'm just kind of curious, like looking at the defense just overall, because I mean, obviously we were talking about the secondary, but like when I dug into the numbers for this game, like I knew it was a struggle for the defense, but because I mean, last year this defense was a big part of probably the main part of the reason why Tennessee was so successful. But I mean, looking at the numbers, they're like 120th or like 117th in EPA per play as a defense. It's like, success rates, they're near the bottom. Like I didn't realize things were so bad, especially even against the run. I see 130 in success rate against the run. So like, is it just the losses up front? Is it just losing guys like James Pierce? Like I know you mentioned the personnel. Is it as just simple as the guys that Tennessee graduated and lost to the draft?
To an extent, yes. You mentioned James Pierce. He's an edge guy. I actually think Tennessee is good off the edge this year. The problem is the interior. You had two guys in the interior last season, starters, and Amari Thomas, who was a 5-year guy here at Tennessee. I don't know where he is right now, maybe trying to find his way onto a practice squad. And then they had second-round draft pick to the Kansas City Chiefs, Omar Norman-Lott, last season. That was another one that was a big contributor for Tennessee up front. So you lose him. And then we've mentioned the corners as well. And it's not that the guys that Tennessee has played this year at corner are bad necessarily. Like Colton Hood is actually projecting a low-end first-round pick as well, who was one of – because he was going to get in the mix this year, but he's been mocked really high so far this year. He's actually scored 2 defensive touchdowns for Tennessee. And then you got another guy in Ty Redmond, who's a true freshman, not a super highly recruited kid. And, he's doing his best to hold his own this year. It's going to be tough when you're thrown into the fire. Like the Georgia game, for example, you're going against the best of the best talent in college football. Your third game as a freshman in college. Like it's just going to be hard for you out of the gate. So that's been a little bit of it. And, more recently, and this has not been as much of a problem, not in the Oklahoma game necessarily, but Kentucky, it was a little bit of a problem. And it's something that we need to keep an eye on this week in the availability report. But Arion Carter, the stud linebacker for Tennessee, he has been in and out, just dealing with some injuries. He did play a little bit of the Oklahoma game, but not a ton. Did not see the field against Kentucky, did not play yesterday either. So that's a guy that is a vocal presence for Tennessee on defense that has been missing for a couple games now, really. But Tennessee is optimistic about what it has there at linebacker outside of him, because you got some young guys in Edwin Spillman and Jaden Perlotti who have made some pretty measurable impacts this year for this team, and we're excited to see what they can do in the future.
Yeah, so you bring up the interior of your defensive line being more of the problem. Tyler and I both can attest to this. Florida's offense is at its best when we can consistently run the football. You look at the Texas game, probably our best offensive game this season. Jaden Ball was able to go for over 100 yards. I think it was only 4 yards per carry or something like that, but a lot of that was like fourth quarter. We're just running the clock out and Texas run committing, but he had a really good game against Texas. But then outside of that, you look at the Ole Miss game where we put up 24 points in the first half. What were there? So it was those 3 touchdowns, deep ball, and then a pick where we started in the red zone. So we could not score running the ball at all against Ole Miss. And in the second half, when Ole Miss took away those deep shots or Lagway missed them, our offense did nothing. So if your guys' weakness is maybe interior on the D-line, maybe this is a game where Florida could figure out how to run the football at a higher rate than we've done so far this season.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky because this defense has shown up in places, but it's not consistent. Like, there have been multiple defensive touchdowns this season that Tennessee scored. You had one against Syracuse. You had 2 against Mississippi State, actually.
Yeah.
You forced 3 turnovers against Arkansas, but you didn't score. You only capitalized on one of them offensively. And it's not as if they haven't been able to stuff the run at points this year. Like, they did well against Bama, although Bama is not a very good run offense whatsoever. You look at the Oklahoma game. the numbers are a little deceptive there, especially on the ground, because I actually think Tennessee did a really good job in the first half defensively of holding its ground. The offense just wasn't able to break through enough in that first half, and it just felt like eventually the dam was going to break for Tennessee defensively, and sure enough, it did in the second half. So they have showed up at points this year on the defensive end. It's just very sporadic, I would say.
I don't know how much of Florida you've watched. Obviously, as a 3-7 team, and you've got your own program to keep an eye on. But like, from what you've seen, like what about this Florida offense, if anything, is most concerning to you? Whether it be like a player or just an element of the offense.
I think I'm going to agree with you guys about the run game. Like that would be something that I think they could potentially exploit, just because Jaden Ball is one of the few good pieces about that offense that has been healthy all season. Because I know. That injury report that extends on for days right now. I don't know if anything is changing. I saw is it Trey Wilson that's out for the season?
Yeah,
at receiver. Okay, because I know he was questionable going into the Tennessee game last year, and then he played. But yeah, Florida been banged up at receiver for a lot of the season. I know Dallas Wilson's another one that's had some trouble staying on the field for that very reason.
Yeah, he's out.
So. Oh yeah, so both the Wilsons are out for the year.
Yeah.
So it's tricky with Lagway because, again, like I said before, he is the most boom or bust player in the SEC. It feels like even more so than Lenora Sellers or Arch Manning at times. Just because you see the negatives every now and again, and you're just like, man, this guy, he cannot get out of his own way. How does this keep happening? But I would have to say, with Florida being down a little bit at receiver right now, that might be something Tennessee does not fear quite as much. Now, Lagway, again, he could produce a lot, and I just know how it goes in the swamp for Tennessee. I would not be surprised if he does, but I could see it going the other way. It is just so hard to tell with Florida every single year, and this is a year in which I don't want to sound negative, but Florida is playing for pride and dignity at this point. Tennessee, essentially what it's playing for is just a way to position yourself better for a better bowl game, I guess. Because there's some people trying to throw Tennessee as just like a dark horse CFP contender at this point. That's just not happening. It's not Tennessee fans that are doing it either. Like nobody really thinks Tennessee can get in at this point. So I don't ever remember there being a game where both teams truly did not have much to play for, which is why I'm a little bit more intrigued by this game now, just because you could see some different things happen. And again, like we mentioned at the beginning of the show, this game is being played in November. Very few times does that happen in the modern era of college football.
Yeah, you mentioned our receivers, Dallas Wilson and Trey Wilson, being hurt. We have some good receivers, though, still outside of them. I mean, freshman Vernell Brown, he played against Ole Miss, but I don't think he had any receptions. Or he didn't play much. I know he was a game time. I'm pretty sure he played. I thought I saw number 8 out there.
I think he did, but he did not get targeted.
Yeah, he didn't have he was a game time decision, so he didn't play that much and limited targets. But our other receivers still outside of that, TJ Abrams had a good game. He had one of the explosive plays. J. Michael Sturdivant and Ada Mizell, and I assume Vernell Brown's going to be good to go for the Tennessee game. Like probably won't be on the injury report if he played against Ole Miss. So I think our receivers are good, and I think the question's more on Lagway because something that's interesting here. Lagway's best 2 games this season were probably the Texas game. He was SEC Offensive Player of the Week, had a really good game there. And Mississippi State probably was the second best game. I mean, it's Mississippi State's defense. It's not hard to see why, but both of those games were at home. And now one of his worst games was USF early in the season when he was still recovering from his injury. So it's like I think there's been a pretty significant shift after our first bye week after that Miami game. And his 2 best games since were both our home games against Texas and Mississippi State. So maybe that's something that can also feed on to this game against Tennessee. And you look back to last night, I think he was 9 of 17 for like what 180. I don't have his exact numbers, but
He was
one
not
interception.
come out for the game or for
Yeah.
he was 16 of 31 for the game.
What am I thinking of? Okay, I may have looked at like halftime his stats, and then I think
Yeah.
that's what happened.
I think no, you're right. His halftime numbers were like 9 of 17 for 150, and then he finished 16 of 31 for 218.
For 218. So yeah, like he hit some explosive plays, but outside of that, a bunch of inconsistency. So you're missing a lot of players in that defensive back room. Maybe it's something where Florida can hit some more explosive plays, and there still is. I think there still is something to play for this team. We've talked a little bit about the Lane Kiffin rumors, and especially if you're an offensive guy, it's not just if Lane does come to Florida, it's not one of those things where Lane's recruiting you. You kind of got to recruit yourself a little bit to Lane with how bad this offense has been. And I know Lagway was a 5-star, but Lagway is not guaranteed a spot if Lane is here. And 2 more games, he showed some impressive plays against Ole Miss. If you can do that in your last 2 games, and these receivers as well, maybe that's something that could play a factor here in playing for something and, not giving up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that could be part of it. And another wild realization as you said that, Tyler, Florida could literally go 4-8 this season and win all of its SEC home games if Tennessee were to lose on Saturday, which is insane. It's again, it just goes to show you Florida is never truly bad when they are not good. It feels like it happens every single year. Maybe you guys disagree as Florida fans, but I just come to expect the nonsense to happen every single time I turn on a Tennessee and Florida game, because I remember I was at the game 2 years ago down there, and Florida's coming off a loss to Utah early on in the season. They're feeling a little battered. They're feeling a little bruised. Then the second quarter happens, and suddenly it's just like you're watching the same horror movie over again. And you're just like, well, maybe Florida's good this year. We shall see. And then sure enough, they spiraled in the last 5 games of that season. And you're just like, well, here we are again. We had a solid season. You won a Citrus Bowl, and you lost to some teams that were pretty good, but Florida was one of those teams, and they weren't that good of the 4 teams that you lost to. So I definitely do think it's not like you don't have anything to play for at that point. It's just, a little bit less is at stake than usual. Sitting at 3-7 is kind of what it feels like. And the same is for Tennessee too. Like you're just trying to improve your bowl position at this point.
Yeah, you mentioned even when we're bad, like we're still not like a bad team. Like that 2023 season, our final 2 games, we should have beaten Missouri, who was a top 10 team. We gave up a 4th and 17, and that's after Graham Mertz also got hurt early in the 4th quarter. That's a game we probably should have won even with the backup. And then FSU, they were also missing their starter in that game, another top 10 team, and that was a close 4-quarter game as well. So this team, even when they're bad, it's the talent. Florida's always going to have talent, and if that talent's able to wake up for 1 or 2 games against a good team, they're going to put a scare on you like we did Ole Miss last night, and what we did to Georgia a couple weeks ago. So that's a very good point about Florida's bad, but we're usually not that bad. I'd say 2017 we were pretty bad. Like, I don't know if we really played any good teams.
Even that team, I agree. That was the one year that Florida was actually really bad. Still beat Tennessee in the swamp. Still beat them in the swamp.
Hail Mary. Jim McElwain has 2 of the luckiest wins over Tennessee of all time.
And I was at both of them. It was fun.
Yeah, it depends on who you ask.
All right, we'll switch things up here. Start talking about Florida's defense now against Tennessee's offense. And I'll start here talking about Florida's defense a bit, because this is a very interesting defense. You look at last night's game against Ole Miss, where Kawan Lacey ran for over 200 yards, but for the most part, we kept Ole Miss out of the end zone. Now they scored 34, but that includes a touchdown when they could just need the ball out. That's kind of reason Florida fans do want Lane. Instead of just needing it out, he goes for a touchdown when you don't need to. But they get that touchdown, and our defense was able to make a lot of plays, especially during the 3rd quarter. It's the 4th quarter when we couldn't get the stops, and we got some goal line stand. We got a goal line stand in the 3rd or early 4th quarter as well. So this defense is really good when it wants to be, at bending but not breaking. We'll give up a lot of big chunk plays, leave receivers open, but we don't give up the deep balls. We don't really do that too often or give off big explosive runs. It's just teams are able to gush us for, 6-yard run, 12-yard run, 15-yard pass. But then when it gets to the red zone, or maybe when you're near midfield, we're able to get a big time sack at that point. But our defense has been, when it wants to be, the Kentucky game kind of just throw out the window. No one tried in that game. It's just, if you're looking at that game to make your pick here, you're probably not looking at this game correctly.
No.
So you really look at the rest of the season here, where our defense has just been able to keep teams from scoring. But I know your offense, you're going to have a lot of yards in this game. I don't really doubt that. Unless, it's Florida. It's in the swamp. Tennessee coming to the swamp. Anything can happen. I would be surprised if we held Tennessee to under, 400 yards at least?
Yeah,
maybe.
That'd be surprising to me.
Yeah.
So
this team, it's weird because Josh Heupel teams are usually best when they are running the football well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like this team has done a terrible job of running the football, but it just hadn't been as big of a factor, I feel like, this year as it has been in years past. Really, outside of the Arkansas game, you've not seen a ton of crazy outputs in SEC play. The Georgia game is what it is. Like, Tennessee was able to throw on Georgia a lot in that game, which is a big part of the reason why it stayed close, especially there late when Tennessee got down in the third quarter. Looking at some of the other ones, Mississippi State, I just think out of choice, they decided not to run the football. Because if they wanted to run the football, they were able to get like 10, 15 yards a run for a lot of that game with Sean Bishop. So I don't know why they decided not to. Bama, it was more of a too little, too late type thing. Like, they did get Deshaun Bishop going later on in that game, but just weren't able to run the ball effectively early. And then you look at the last two SEC games, Kentucky, they just didn't need it because Kentucky's corners decided to man up on Tennessee's receivers, which is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
And then Oklahoma was very good at stopping the run, like just a lot of 1-2 yard runs on first down. But I also think Oklahoma's defense is probably one of the most challenging to have to play against in the SEC. So that's a big part of it as well. And unlike what you saw last season with Dylan Sampson, most Heupel offenses are more of the running back by committee thing. You're going to see Bishop use more than the other guys, but Star Thomas and Peyton Lewis, figuring Peyton Lewis is healthy because he did have to be helped off the field yesterday. And Bishop did too, but Bishop appeared healthy. But Lewis looked a little bit more severe, so we'll see if he plays in this game. But you look at the passing game. Other than maybe Texas A&M, I would say this is probably the best receiving core in the SEC that Florida is going to face all season. Chris Brazzell, he's not been as productive later on in the year as he was at the beginning, but he's still been very productive for this offense. He's a long strider at about 6'5", 200. Braylon Staley has been a very productive receiver for Tennessee this year. We didn't know what we'd get out of him, but he's coming in his redshirt freshman season. He's had a pretty nice season. And you look at their other receiver, Mike Matthews, he was the highest recruited of those three receivers. He has been productive this year. He's been a little bit outshined by those other guys, but he's still a guy that you have to look out for. So I would say Tennessee is going to challenge Florida in that regard. Now, the one thing you do have to think about, and I think we mentioned it earlier on in the show, is the potential for interceptions from this Tennessee team. Because Heupel quarterbacks have not generally turned the ball over much, at least through the air. Like Hendon Hooker, I think, only had 5 total through 2 seasons at Tennessee. I believe Nico and Joe had 6 or less each. And Joey is at 10 right now. And part of that is Joey just trying to make plays down the field, which, I can appreciate because Nico was not willing to do that last season. Or if he tried, he just was nowhere close with it. Which I think was a little bit of a problem as we went on in the season. But no, Joey is clearly showing some effort there, and I appreciate that part of it. Now, could that get him in trouble in the swamp? Maybe. I think that is probably the most hostile road environment Tennessee is going to play in this season if the fans are still checked in. Mississippi State, I don't think was that strong of an environment because once the bells stop ringing, they're not loud at all. if the TV broadcast is any indication. Tennessee always takes over Kentucky when they go up there. It's a 2.5-hour drive, and it's usually basketball season by the time Tennessee plays at Kentucky. And then Alabama, Tennessee lost that game by 17. But one thing that I've always said about Alabama is that is a place where the team has always been really good and the coach has always been really good since they've been on this sustained run. But the environment is not that good.
I've heard that.
Like if you were to go there for a game, I think you might be a little bit disappointed with the fan experience. Now, the team is not going to let you down aside from last night, but they're typically a tough place to go and win just because that team is good. Florida, it's the environment. I will say that much. So if the fans are still checked in, I could see that causing some problems on offense. I know pre-snap penalties were a bit of an issue the last time Tennessee went down there. So we will see if that is a problem again this time around.
Hey, Tyler, I wanted to ask you, last night against Ole Miss, Florida's pass rush has been very inconsistent. Against Texas, it was really good. Last night against Ole Miss, it was really good. We mentioned Joey Aguilar will turn the ball over when pressured, and if you can get pressure to him. And you were talking about it a little bit earlier, Sam brought it up. If Caleb Banks is cleared for this game, I think our defense is going to be electric. They'll have a spark, especially being at home. We saw our defensive pressure, or our front seven, get pressure last night against Ole Miss. And if Caleb Banks returns, is that something that maybe could help Florida get some stops or some late game pressures to help Florida win this game?
Yeah, I mean, if you're getting Caleb Banks in full, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the question would be just guys barely played football this year. We don't know. Yeah. Obviously, working really hard to come back from an injury that we kind of thought might have been season ending. So just hard to say where he's at from a health perspective. But I mean, do you have?
I've heard he's healthy.
Okay. Well, I mean, if he's at 100% or pushing towards it, I mean, yeah, I think that makes a massive impact. I mean, we saw he took over games during that run to end last season. So, but sticking on the Tennessee offense, Tucker, I'm curious, you mentioned Aguilar, kind of the limiting factor has been the turnovers. And that's the thing that's sort of holding him in this offense back at times. But, obviously a guy that kind of came in, obviously the storyline of kind of the summer in college football, arguably was the way Nico left. And, coming and getting a guy who had transferred to UCLA, was previously at App State, and frankly, wasn't all that great at App State, at least statistically, production wise. I mean, it seems to me at least at the very least, it hasn't been a considerable drop off. If anything, maybe is upgraded from Nico in some capacity. Where's the level of confidence in Joey, and how would you kind of assess the way he's performed overall this season?
Yeah, I think it's been a welcome surprise for this team, because I mentioned it when I was talking about the offense a second ago, but Nico was not very trustworthy going down the field. Yes, Joey can throw some interceptions from time to time, but hey, at least he's trying to make the plays. Nico will go from one progression to just trying to make a play with his legs very quickly and try to extend the play when he probably doesn't need to be doing that. I think a big part of the problem this team had last year that led to a lot of sacks was Nico's decision-making. I don't think it was the offensive line's fault as much, just after having watched some of the film and just seeing what Nico did back there. But it's absolutely been an improvement because this is a guy that, of course, came in, learned the offense in about 3.5 months. And, he's going to say that it was not the easiest thing to learn. It's getting used to the pace, I think, is the big thing with Joey in this system. I think now you've got a guy in it that can run it a little closer to the way that Heupel wants him to, which is something Nico was not able to do last season. But overall, he's got a very calm demeanor about him, and I think he's very grateful to be where he is. And his family's really embraced Knoxville too, and that's something that, well, I mean, you love to see that with any quarterback, but just particularly with what happened with the last quarterback at Tennessee, you really like to see that, because Nico's dad was constantly going at it with people on the social medias, journalists and fans alike, and then just – it came out that he was the one that was asking for a few more $1 million. They wouldn't give it to him. And then he moved Nico out to UCLA. So if you are asking who won the quote-unquote trade between Tennessee and UCLA, it's absolutely Tennessee. We figured that out at the beginning of the season, but I think that's been proven now that UCLA is sitting at 3-7. Even though he didn't play yesterday because he apparently had a concussion, I just don't think he wanted to relive the trauma of playing in Ohio Stadium again. But yeah, Tennessee has absolutely improved there because Nico – because they kept making all kinds of different excuses. One day it was, oh, we want to be closer to our family, or oh, we want this much more money, or oh, we're not returning very many guys this year because a lot of these receivers have hit the portal. And a new thing came out each day that this was happening, and it just got old after a while. So I think Tennessee is very glad to be in the situation it is with Joey Aguilar right now. And it's been a pleasant surprise, even if he is turning the ball over every now and again, maybe a little bit more than the average Tennessee quarterback under Heupel. But, he's at least making plays. And I think that's what you want out of your quarterback.
As a bit of a tangent to that, this is kind of a little bit unrelated to this matchup specifically, but I'm just curious, like in general, what do you make of the sort of, because there's been, from what I can tell, kind of a strain of anti-Heupel sentiment that bubbled up really kind of after the Oklahoma loss. What do you make of, because to me, it seems insane considering he's still going to have this team potentially sitting at like 9-3 and what, for all intents and purposes, with everything you lost on both sides, like seems like it should have been a rebuilding year, replacing the quarterback in the fall, and it's worked out for the most part. Like that seems insane to me. Like, what do you make of that kind of vibe?
So first and foremost, Tyler, they are the national media pundits are perpetuating two idiots online as the entire Tennessee fan base. That's the first thing you need to know. There's not any true anti-Heupel sentiments going on out there. But I think there have been some things that have happened in games this year that have held Tennessee back that I think are on Josh Heupel a little bit, because you go back to the Georgia game at the beginning of the season, you have a chance to walk them off. That entirely changes the trajectory of the season if you can do that, and you don't do it in part because of clock management. You had 7 seconds left when you attempted the field goal. You couldn't run another play, just get it to the right hash and get Max Gilbert a little bit more comfortable. That's a bit of a tricky play right there, tricky scenario. So I am not as judgmental of that one, but there have been more things that have happened down the stretch that have caused some discomfort, like no, he's not gone. Don't worry. Mississippi State game. They got the ball with 2 minutes left. They go down and kick a field goal and win the game. They let all that clock run out with 2 timeouts. Now, the good news is they won the game in overtime, but had you lost the game, people would have been very upset by that. Then you have the Arkansas game. They're up 34-17. Arkansas scores 2 more touchdowns. You punted twice on the other side of the 50-yard line. Both of the punts were touchbacks, and it took Arkansas approximately 1 play on each of those possessions to get to where you had punted the ball away from. So that in-game management was questionable. The end of the first half at Alabama, that play on the goal line, that was a poorly managed sequence that ultimately led to a poorly designed play when everybody and their mother in Tuscaloosa knows, hey, they're going to pass it here. They don't have any timeouts left. And sure enough, they passed it. Joey doesn't put the ball in quite the right place, and Alabama's running it back for 6. Kentucky, not a problem. The Oklahoma game, you're down in the fourth quarter. You've got I think you had timeouts at that point, but you're down 2 scores at one point in the game with 9 minutes to go. You're not hustling up to the football. And I think that's something that is a little bit of a concern if you're watching that as a fan. Like, I don't want to see my team loafing around to the football in a game that you're trailing in. And there was a play call in that game that was, a little strange. Like, it was essentially the same play they ran at Alabama on the goal line, except with a true freshman tight end. So it was just like, why would you call that play right there? Like, there have been some things that he's done this year that I think have potentially kept this team from achieving things that it could have achieved this year, like, maybe a college football playoff appearance. You could have beaten Georgia and Oklahoma at home. I'm not going to say they would have beaten Alabama and Tuscaloosa, but if you in that second half differently, you're not going down 23-7 at half. Maybe it's 16-14 instead. So, no, you are not looking at a case where you need to fire Josh Heupel, but some things need to happen within the program. We've discussed these on our show in the past, where and there's this whole national discourse going on right now about play caller head coaches. Like, is that really a sustainable thing if you're trying to win a national championship? And I do wonder if that is getting in the way of Josh Heupel maybe managing the other stuff in the game, because he is a good play caller, don't get me wrong, but I just think it's something that could be getting in his way this year. There's talk with the defensive staff. Like, Tim Banks has been around for a long time, and he had that defense in a good spot last year, but they were also going against bad offenses, and then this year they've just not been quite as good, so he's not up for any head coaching jobs anymore. So at what point do you move on there? I don't know if it's this year or what. And then the other thing too that I mentioned in the past, and this is not really an on-field thing, but and as it relates to the situation that occurred this afternoon, you need a general manager to oversee some of this stuff going on, because Heupel, I'm telling you what, he is not a bully by any stretch of the imagination. And that's not always a bad thing, but when you got guys who are running around the program and not really giving it their full attention, like, say, Boo Carter or Nico, and they're looking elsewhere, and they're getting on the nerves of their teammates, they're becoming a little bit of a locker room cancer. You need somebody to manage that, especially in the portal era and the NIL era. And it's different because you have to re-recruit your own roster, sign these kids to contracts, and get their deals done and all that. And Heupel doesn't want to oversee that. A lot of coaches have actually gotten out of head coaching roles because they don't want to have to deal with that anymore. And I think it would be wise if either Heupel or somebody within the athletic department, Danny White, the athletic director, somebody were to just get them a GM at this point in name. That way they don't have to worry about this stuff. But I know that's kind of a long-winded answer to your question, but no, I don't think Josh Heupel is on the hot seat, not for at least a few more years. But I do think he has to look inward and make a few changes if you really want to take this program to the next level, is kind of how we're looking at this.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Let's get into our picks here. Tucker, are you going to make your pick on our show, or are you going to wait for your show?
I don't
You
know.
can wait if you need to.
You can wait. Yeah. You can just give us some general thoughts if you want.
Oh, goodness. This is so hard, man. Because on paper, Tennessee has been better a lot of years, but that's the problem. It's on paper. Then the game actually happens and Florida ends up winning more often than not. So the minute I saw the kickoff last night, it's like, oh God, here we go again. You got a night game of the swamp. What could possibly go wrong? My co-host, by the way, he was just like, oh yeah, I would love to have a night game in the swamp. It'll be cooler down there at night. It's like, Jordan, buddy, it is in November, first and foremost. Number two, do you want those reptiles getting rowdy in the middle of the night with their jorts and all their crazy shenanigans down there in the swamp? Do you want that? I was down there for it 2 seasons ago. I can tell you, Tennessee does not want that. They really don't want it. So I always struggle with this one because, my heart wants to say Tennessee will finally get it done, because here's the thing, guys. I'm 23 years old. The last time I saw Tennessee win in the swamp, I didn't really even see it. I was a year and a half old. If they don't win this year, I will be 27 years old the next time they can have an opportunity to win the swamp, because for the first time in 30-something years, Tennessee and Florida will not be playing each other next year, which is kind of sad. Honestly, it is a little bit sad. Maybe it's not so sad for Tennessee's purposes, but I want to see Tennessee win this game so bad, just because they haven't been able to do it for most of my life.
That makes sense. Natuno, what is your prediction for this game? I'm having trouble picking it here.
Yeah, this one's a little tough. And I also, I was 4 years old the last time Florida lost to Tennessee in the swamp. I also don't remember it. So as my entire life, as long as I can remember, Florida's won that game in the Swamp. I mean, look, if you would ask me to predict this game on the show a week ago, I would have probably given you a pretty similar score prediction to the one I made for the Ole Miss game, which was like 35-17. I kind of just thought the team had kind of folded it in. Who knows about FSU, but I was kind of like, Ole Miss and Tennessee, those are much better teams. It'll probably be pretty ugly. I don't think that anymore, just because of the effort they showed last night. I think they're still, maybe there's the Kiffin element. Maybe there's that angle, but I think you could argue that a rivalry game and the streak will be enough to get that kind of effort out of them this time. And I think honestly, Tennessee is a better matchup for Florida than Ole Miss was, but I worry about the Florida's defense's ability to get stops in this game, because it's been a little iffy, getting iffier as the season goes on and it gets more banged up. So, I think Florida will score some points. I mean, they scored points at least in the first half yesterday against what I think is probably a better defense. I think this one will be close, actually. I just think Florida hasn't really proven it can find ways to win. It's struggled to do that this year. I think Tennessee does finally get it done, but I think it's in very stressful and uncomfortable fashion if you're a Tennessee fan. I got like 31-28 Tennessee.
Okay. It's never comfortable. It's never comfortable when Tennessee wins. It wasn't comfortable in 2022 when they were up 2 scores with 2 minutes to go. They didn't make it comfortable. Last year, Tennessee's got a chance to win the game and, get Florida off the field. But guess what? DJ Lagway hit Shimdike down the field, forces overtime. Billy Napier could have gone for 2 and won the game right then and there. It's never comfortable.
No, I'm in the same spot you're in, Tyler, where if you would have asked us last week, I would have been maybe a bit closer than I had to Ole Miss game, but I would have been comfortably picking Tennessee to win this game. But the thing with Caleb Banks is I've heard he's healthy, and it's not a health issue. It's whether does he want to risk re-injury again. Is 2 games going to help his draft stock that much at this point? I've heard he wants to play. He was dressed out. I have a picture of him dressed out during warm-ups for the Ole Miss game. I think he is going to play. And I think this is going to be a 4-quarter game. I think our defense is going to be able to step up and make those late plays. And we've been so close in so many games. And because it's in the Swamp, I think I'm going to pick Florida to win this one, which is a bit surprising. I think I'm going to take us to win this like 28-26. Very close game. I think Tennessee has the ball. Or not last. I think we're going to need it out. But I think Tennessee has the ball, the chance to take a lead late in the game. And I think our defensive line or linebacker, blitz, whatever we do there, I think it's going to make enough plays to get a sack or force a Joey Aguilar turnover. In a game that we probably should lose, I think Tennessee is going to out-yard us by 150, 200, maybe even yards there. And I just think it's going to be enough shenanigans. I think our defense is going to get enough stops in the red zone or just get those turnovers that the offense is going to be able to do enough and defense is going to get enough stops where I think we're going to be able to sneak away a win here because you mentioned it. We haven't lost an SEC game in the Swamp this season, which is just wild to think about when we're 3-7. And of course, our one home loss was the USF. But, I think we're going to be able to sneak this one out. I do think the team has a lot to play for. And yeah, I think it's going to be a close, fun game. And I've been to so many of these close SEC games the past couple of years where Florida's probably been the worst team and found ways to win. And you mentioned how Tennessee, that's kind of always what happens. So I'm gonna stick with history and predict us to pull the upset.
Well, I would not be surprised by that at all. Let me tell you, having seen plenty of those. Your score prediction is pretty much just the 2015 game repeating itself, except maybe not a blown lead. I don't know exactly, but no, there's always some nonsense that goes on because you ask Kentucky fans what they think about Tennessee. It's what Tennessee fans think about Florida. When are we ever going to beat these people? That's just what it feels like every year. Now, thankfully, Tennessee's had a little bit of success against Florida, but Kentucky, the last time Kentucky had a winning record against Tennessee is before the Great Depression. That's a long time.
So Tennessee, it was pre-Bear Bryant. They weren't even doing it during when they had Bear Bryant.
They had a few wins, but they were I think Tennessee is up like 86-27 now in the series all time.
That's
It's wild, man. Like I'm glad Tennessee kept them on the schedule and the permanent opponents for that very reason, man. It's not so much mental games there. Like Tennessee will blow them out a lot of years, like this year, for example, and then 3 years ago it happened. Last year they probably should have blown them out, but didn't. But no, Florida. The losses in the swamp are usually by double digits if they happen, but I've seen some silly ones too where you had the phantom catch in Neyland Stadium where Florida ends up winning that game in the early 2000s. I was at the god awful 10-9 game in 2015, or no, it was 14.
14.
Because I remember Butch Jones and Will Muschamp are responsible for two of the worst Tennessee football games I've ever been to. You had the 10-9 game in 2014. And then South Carolina played Tennessee in 2017. Tennessee loses that game 15-9. Had a chance to win late, but Garantano threw an incompletion on 4th and goal. So I get annoyed by Will Muschamp. I think that's part of the reason why I don't like Florida so much is because that guy was just not a great coach at all at Florida, and yet he always found these dumb ways to beat Tennessee every single time. Tennessee didn't beat him until 2019 when he was at South Carolina. And then McElwain kept up the dumb trend for a couple years too.
Yeah, I think the thing with Muschamp being able to have success against y'all, and especially at Florida, was the fact that our defenses were elite when he was here. And even the years the 1 year where we went 4-8, our defense was still great here. We had a lot of injuries that year as well, but our defense was still great. And your guys' offense were also terrible at that point. So it was a very favorable matchup for Florida. But I want to get your opinion on this, Tucker, before we let you go here. What is your opinion on the Florida coaching search? What's your opinion? Did you think Lane Kiffin is going to be the guy who leaves Ole Miss, or do you have another name you think it is?
So I have gone on our SEC show a few times in the last few weeks, and we've talked a little bit about these coaching searches as they've happened because there are multiple of them. It's not just Florida that's doing this. You got LSU, you got Arkansas, you got Auburn all looking for people. And LSU and Auburn could argue that they are in as good of a place to land a coach as Florida, just from a job standpoint because of their access to talent, because Louisiana is a state that can recruit itself. Alabama is a pretty strong football talent state, not as strong as Florida, but you're also a 30-minute drive from Georgia as well. So your proximity to talent is very good in both of those places. Florida is tricky because it's a job where you have good access to talent, but you're competing with two other Power 4 schools that have been successful in the past, maybe not as much recently. And a lot of Florida's history is confined to a 20-year period. Because, there was a long time where they were fine. And then they got Spurrier in the 1990s, and all of a sudden they just took off. And then you had a little bit of an intermission there with Ron Zook, and then they picked it right back up with Urban Meyer. Hadn't been the same since then. So I don't know what exactly the national perception of that job is. I know the first sign of anything going wrong in the swamp, they will immediately get upset with you as a coach. I know that's the case in a lot of SEC schools. It is certainly that way in the swamp because Dan Mullen got fired a year after going to an SEC championship game, as did Jim McElwain. Although McElwain, there was other stuff involved in that, like the fake death threats and all that fun stuff. And you guys have talked about Lane Kiffin, and I get that. Like Lane, everybody wants to throw Lane into that conversation because of what happened at Tennessee, leaving in the middle of the night for a job in USC that I don't necessarily know if it was a better job necessarily. And hindsight is always 20/20, but I actually don't think Tennessee would be in that much of a better place right now had Lane stayed there more than a year. Just because even though I think he's a good quarterback developer, he was still very immature at the time. Like he flamed out at USC. He still got fired from there, and Coach O had to take the reins from him once that happened. So I don't know if Tennessee would necessarily be in a better spot had he stayed around. But I can tell you this. I don't think he's as likely to leave for another job than he was back then. I think he likes where he is at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a place where you don't have all kinds of pressure on you all the time. If you can win 8 to 10 games a year, they're going to be happy with you most years as long as you're playing fun and exciting football. And that's what Lane Kiffin teams do. They play fun and exciting football. So to answer your question on Lane Kiffin, I actually don't think he ends up leaving. I'll tell you who I think they get. And this may be tough, but he's another visor-wearing head coach in the SEC who runs his mouth all the time and plays a fun style of football, and Florida fans would feed off of his infectious energy, and that would be Eli Drinkwitz.
It's not happening.
I think he could get lured down there because that's it. He fits the Florida mold very well. You need a dude with a personality down there running that program. It's why it's like Spurrier invented that style of coaching for that place, and those fans have fed off of that ever since then. Like, you have to have some weird swagger about you to do well down there in Florida. Like, you have to run a little hot, and I think that could end up happening. I don't know who else they get at this point. Like, would you consider driving down to Tampa and getting goalless? Because like they just tried the group of 5 route and it didn't work with Billy Napier. And part of the problem with Billy Napier is he's a guy that, he just doesn't have that same personality to him. And I'm going to give myself credit on something too while we're here. I haven't said this yet, but when you had me on the show back in May, I was just like, Jeremy Pruitt had a good end to his season in 2019. Mm-hmm. And then there was just this collapse in 2020. Obviously, the investigation came with it, and Billy Napier did not have that. But the end to his tenure at Tennessee is very similar to Billy Napier's tenure at Florida. And I was like, okay, the players are bought in, but I don't think the coach is all that good. You surged at the end of the season after beating some bad teams, which is what Tennessee did that season after having a pretty embarrassing loss to Georgia State at the start of the season. But I'm going to pat myself a little bit on the back for that take. I wondered if it could happen, and sure enough, it did. So I am thankful that Billy Napier did give Tennessee a winning record over him, because no coach since Ron Zook had done that at Florida. It's so funny, man. All these Florida coaches have all these ties to Tennessee. I think there's like 10 of them that are either from Tennessee or coached at UT and Florida.
It's going to be 11.
Yeah, it could be 11.
No, but hey, thank you, Tucker, for joining the show. We're glad to have you. You were great tonight. So we got some other stuff to talk about. If you want, you can stay for a little bit longer. We have our little own pick'em league. We got to kind of rush through things. We only have 30 minutes left. So if you want, you can make some picks with us for the games, or do you want to head out?
Do you want me to make some picks?
If you want to make some picks, if you want to, you're welcome. Yeah. We had Matt from the Texas channel on. He went 5-3, so
okay,
a little bit of you're trying to beat 5-3. Last week I went 5-3. Actually, I am okay. I don't have our overall records. I think am I trailing you by 6? 2 weeks ago I was trailing you by 7. I think I caught up by a point or two. I caught up by 2 points, so I should be trailing you by 5 right now, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm making a bit of a comeback. I went 5-3. Tyler, you went 4-4. So Matt went 5-3 back in week 6. So now it's week 13. Man, the season just flies by now.
It's 2 more weeks in the regular season, man. How did that happen?
Every year.
Man. Takes so long to get there, but this flybys. Okay, so this is week 13. First game we're gonna pick. You know what? Because it's gonna be a fun matchup Friday night. FSU at NC State. FSU got a pretty big win over Virginia Tech. Or they didn't, because if Virginia Tech wins, maybe FSU fires Norvell quicker, or they don't fire him at all if FSU wins. So, and that increases their odds for James Franklin. But FSU, a night game on Friday night at NC State. Tyler, what is your pick here?
I kind of think FSU will be fine here. I think NC State is bad. I think NC State, you ready for a hot take? I think NC State might be more likely to fire their coach than Florida State.
Wow.
I mean, I kind of think Norvell is trending towards staying. I think if he can win this game and obviously win Florida, which I think unfortunately is very much in play, I think even maybe splitting them would be enough for him to stay. I mean, they took care of business against another bad Virginia Tech team last night. I mean, they've kind of figured things out a little bit. They still don't look very good, but like they're clearly a level above the absolute worst teams in the ACC. And I think NC State might be closer to those teams. So we'll see. But I'm on FSU.
Yeah, Sam, I want to be the team that knocks FSU out of bowl contention. They're currently 5-5, so they have to lose this week. You know
They
what?
have a. Well, they have a. Oh no, right. They don't have a bye game. Never mind.
Yeah. I think Mike Norvell is just too inconsistent as a coach. Just not good enough as a coach to keep his team consistent. I'm taking NC State Friday night, and I think we're able to knock them out next week. Tucker, who do you got in this game?
I want to know what secret sauce Mike Norvell was cooking with against Alabama at the beginning of the season. That is a result that will never make sense to me, just because that Florida State team has been trending in the wrong direction for a while. We call him Dave Borendoran up here in Tennessee because he was at one point a candidate for multiple Tennessee head coaching openings. I know Shiano Sunday in particular was one of them. And one of several guys like Mike Gundy who has used that job opening to leverage more money out of their school. Honestly, though, I think I'm going to go with NC State on this one. I just think Florida State is so inconsistent. Let's have a little fun with this. I think I don't have a feel for them at all. Like Castellanos can be a fun quarterback when he wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
They're so weird, man. I think NC State could end up winning this game. I know they got North Carolina the last week of the season. I mean, surely they beat Chapel Hill, right? They haven't lost that game in a while. So yeah, I'll take the Wolfpack on this one. We'll take the Wolfpack.
North Carolina playing a little bit better. They did lose to Wake Forest, but Wake Forest is like a sneaky, not bad team.
They're like a 7-win team.
Wins. Yeah.
Which, like, going into the year, I thought they were going to be like a bottom 2 team in the ACC. And they got that blowout loss to FSU a couple weeks ago. But
shout out Robbie Ashford.
Yeah, shout out Robbie Ashford. He didn't play in that, right? Did he? Am I thinking correctly? I might be.
I think he played in the FSU game.
You might have. All right, next game here, noon on Saturday. Missouri at Oklahoma. Missouri kind of impressed me with their win against Mississippi State. I thought third string QB. Mississippi State's a team that's been better this season and playing with a little bit on the line, still trying to make a bowl game. But Missouri was able to take care of business. And Oklahoma coming off a big win against Alabama. I'm still not sold on this Oklahoma team. Their offense, like, Mateer is not that great of a quarterback. Their run game's found something. I'm still not fully sold on it. I think this Missouri's defense is pretty good. Maybe this is a dumb pick to make. I think Missouri's going to pull the upset here.
I'm not with you there. I think, look, A&M had Matt Zollers in hell, and I think Oklahoma's defense is probably going to do similar things here. Like, I don't think Oklahoma's offense is great either. I don't really believe in John Mateer very much, but like, I think this is going to be a very tough game for Missouri to get much of anything going offensively.
That is a team that can stuff the run in Oklahoma. Can they stuff Ahmad Hardy, who went for 300 yards last week? Maybe they might be able to. Like, Oklahoma, they are the SEC equivalent of the Denver Broncos right now. They are not super fun offensively. In fact, their quarterback is struggling at times. Also happens to wear number 10, so that's another weird parallel there. But you watch that defense play, and like they score on defense too. That's another reason why they were able to beat both Alabama and Tennessee. And suddenly, like, the Sooners went from thinking, well, can we make the CFP? You still got to go to Tennessee and Alabama to, oh goodness, we win this week and we beat LSU. We might be in this thing. So
yeah,
I think those fans are going to be really, really excited. And I'm definitely going to take Oklahoma to win this game.
Yeah, just a few weeks ago, I was still thinking Venables getting fired was still on the table after that Ole Miss loss. And I had no thought that they would beat Tennessee in that game. I thought you guys were going to win comfortably, and they surprised me a bit. But I guess I'm just an Oklahoma hater. Living in Oklahoma for a couple years maybe did that to me. But I think they're gonna be coming off a high of winning that Bama game, and Missouri's gonna be able to catch them by surprise, and that's gonna win Eli Drinkwitz the Florida job, as you mentioned. No, but getting to our next game here, an interesting game. Playoff implications still in the line. Number 7, or not? There's currently 17. They'll change tomorrow, Tuesday. USC at Oregon. USC's low-key played some pretty good football lately. Oregon, I still don't know what to think of Oregon. The Big Ten, it has some good teams in it, but they also don't have. They also have some really bad teams. And
a lot
Oregon's
of really bad teams.
Yeah, Oregon's been able to play a lot of them. They got the 1 point, or was it a 2 point or 1 point win against Iowa? 2 point, I think it was a. Yeah, I went for 2. So they got the 2 point win over Iowa. Iowa's best win is still Minnesota. Like, they lost to Indiana, and Indiana's dominated most teams. I still don't know if I'm sold on Oregon and Indiana yet. And I've seen a bit from USC to know they're a good football team. It's at Autzen. It's in Oregon. I don't think I can pick another upset here. So I'm going to go Oregon, but I think this is an interesting game.
Yeah, I'm also on Oregon. I mean, USC, the Iowa win really impressed me. I mean, they were down in that game. They had to coming from behind on Iowa, just the way they play defense. It's a tough thing to do if you fall in a hole against them, but they did it. On the road here, I think Oregon. I mean, I think Oregon's offense leaves a little bit to be desired, but I think defensively they're good enough to slow USC down here. Like, I think it'll be a pretty competitive game. I don't think Oregon's just going to roll, but I do think they're going to win the game.
Yeah, I think with it being up there, College Game Day coming for the second time this year to Autzen Stadium, which is, I guess, good for them for getting some more publicity up there. But I have to think Oregon probably takes care of business at home. This is the one game, or one of the few road games this year, I guess, where Lincoln Riley does not complain about travel because it's within his time zone.
Yeah.
Maybe that makes a difference. I don't know. I couldn't tell you the last time USC won a game up there in Autzen Stadium. So I think that's going to be a tough place for them to have to play, and I think Oregon will win. Probably not a super high-scoring game, but I do expect it to be very competitive.
All right, next game. Well, in this game, last week didn't matter for one of these teams. Pitt travels to Georgia Tech. Pitt just got blown out by Notre Dame. Georgia Tech survives another scare against a horrible Boston College team. I mean, that's just... I don't even know what to say.
Shut up, Bill O'Brien tanked himself so
Yeah.
that way the Titans and Jags could be successful in the future against the Texans.
Yeah, shut up, Bill O'Brien there. But, Pat Narduzzi was basically preaching how last week meant nothing for Pitt. And it's like, hey,
that was insane.
You go lose this game by 100 points. It doesn't matter because we're still ACC championship is all that matters here. I still think Mason Heinzel's a good QB. This Georgia Tech team, they're so annoying because they're going to play a solid Pitt team, a solid ACC team here, and it's going to be a close game. It could go either way. Just because Narduzzi did what he did last week, I'm going to take Georgia Tech. But I kind of think Pitt does win, but I'm going to take Georgia Tech based on morals.
Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, he's not wrong, but that was an insane thing for a coach to say ahead of a game like that. But look, I think Pitt is pretty good. I think Mason Heinzel in the offense has some potential. Notre Dame was just a bad matchup for them, but I am convinced Pitt's going to win one of these two games coming home against Georgia Tech or Miami. I think this one's probably the more likely one because I think Georgia Tech's defense low-key kind of falling apart a little bit right now. They gave up a lot of points in the loss to NC State, 48, and then gave up a lot last night too. Almost lost that game, like you said. I think the train is kind of coming off the tracks here. The rambling wreck. I think I don't like it. I'm going Pitt here.
Ooh, this is hard. This is a really, really hard one because these are two teams that have played well a lot of the season, and they're both ranked. Haynes King, great football player. I don't always know if he's a great quarterback. Just because he's half of his games, it's this dude is 9 for 30 for 120 yards, maybe an interception mixed in there. And then you look at his rushing stats and suddenly it's 150 yards and 4 touchdowns. Where did that come from? They just keep finding ways to win games, like you said. So I think they're going to win this game. I'm intrigued to see what they do against Georgia. I'm really intrigued to see what they do against Georgia because I know that game is being played, I think, in the Georgia Dome or Mercedes-Benz Dome as it's called now. So I'm intrigued by that game. That's also one of Tennessee's first games next season too. Tennessee is at Bobby Dodd Stadium. So that Haynes King will not be on the team by that point, and who knows, maybe one of these SEC schools comes sniffing around and takes Brent Key out of there, but hard to lure that guy away from his alma mater, I would say. But yeah, I think Georgia Tech could be the team to beat out of the ACC now.
Yeah, I don't want to pick Georgia Tech because of what they did against Boston College, but like I can't pick Pitt after what Narduzzi did. It's against my moral code.
Yeah,
especially
next
because he
game
said it and then they lost big.
Yeah, because he said lost food. This just not right. Next game, we're gonna pick BYU at Cincinnati. BYU still in the playoff hunt. They're ranked 12th. They're probably gonna be ranked 11th or 10th. Probably Texas lost, so they're gonna jump Texas. Oklahoma might jump them though. Or no, they're already below Oklahoma. They're gonna be like ranked 11th probably come Tuesday. But Cincinnati took a loss to Arizona. This is like, remember a few weeks ago, Tyler. Was it Cincinnati? No, Houston. After Houston beat Arizona State, Houston was hosting West Virginia. And on the segment, I said, oh, we're not going to pick it because, you know, the type of game it is. It's like Houston, in theory, should blow out West Virginia. But I said, West Virginia is 100% going to beat Houston. And then West Virginia went and beat Houston by 10 points. Just no reason. West Virginia's been playing better ball recently. So maybe there was something to that. But at the time, there was no reason to think West Virginia was going to win that game. And I made it a lock. Cincinnati is going to be BYU. You know, Cincinnati's a better team. They're coming off that loss against Arizona, which Arizona's a solid team, not great, not bad, but a bowl eligible team now in the Big 12. So 7 wins, I think, actually. Surprised me a bit, but I'm going to take Cincinnati to win this game. It's just about time, like last year where BYU fell apart at the end of the year where they were undefeated. You know, they have 1 loss this year, but they were undefeated and then they just kind of fell off at the end of the regular season. It's a night game in Cincinnati, Ohio. So I'm going to take Cincinnati to beat BYU.
I'm not sure. I think that Cincinnati's a better team. I mean, like BYU bullied a decent TCU team.
Oh, I didn't. Night. I don't think I said BYU's a better team.
I think said Cincy's a better team than BYU. Did I misunderstand that?
Maybe I accidentally said that. No, I mean I picked Cincy to win, but I think this is about the time that BYU like maybe loses a close game where they've won a lot of close games they probably shouldn't win, including that Arizona game earlier in the year. And I think they're finally going to lose this one. Looks like kind of last year.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, they already did have the meltdown game against Tech, but I think defensively BYU is just good enough because, like, Cincy's offense has been pretty good, but it's had games where it kind of lags behind a little bit, like they couldn't do anything against Utah. I think this will be like a light version of what happened to them against Utah, to be honest with you.
Yeah, when is the Morbin magic going to wear off, I think, is the big question. Because they always start off the year hot, it feels like. And defensively, they're normally a very good football team under Kalani Sitake. Also fun to have a quarterback wearing the number 47. That's just not something you see every day in college football. I actually think I'm going to go with BYU on this one. I don't know when the luck is going to run out for them. It did against Arizona State last year, but that's a team that I don't see them going too far into the college football playoff. If they get there, I'm sure they can get into the Big 10 championship or Big 12 championship at this point. But it could get tricky for them down the stretch. We'll see. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this game goes either way because we know Cincinnati can produce. Brendan Sorsby is a guy that let's just say I've heard floated around as an idea for Tennessee to get out of the portal next season if they really wanted to. I don't know if they will. So they have been much better this year under Scott Satterfield. It's taken some time, but I don't think they're quite ready yet to beat BYU.
All right. Well, I added our picks, Tyler, for the Florida-Tennessee game. Usually we do the segment before our game picks, but we already did. I guess we'll have to find out tomorrow night who you have in the Florida-Tennessee game.
Yeah.
So I can put that on the board here. But
sleep on
smaller week. Smaller week this week, only 6 games. We've only had 6 games one time, or no, we had it twice actually. The last time we had only picked 6 games in a week was week 9. I went 6-0. Tyler went 2-4, and that's really where I started my comeback. I was down like double digits at one point, and I've been slowly catching back up now. So, and that week is really where it started. I'll have to figure out your pick for the Florida-Tennessee game tomorrow night, but our picks are. I have NC State. Tyler has FSU, and Tucker, you have NC State. For Missouri versus Oklahoma, I have Missouri. You both have Oklahoma. We all picked Oregon to beat USC. Tucker and I picked Georgia Tech. Natuna, you picked Pitt. Let's see. I picked Cincy. Tyler and Tucker, you picked BYU. And then I picked UF. Tyler, you picked Tennessee. And then Tucker, we'll find out Monday. Tucker, thanks for joining the show. We'll probably see you some point during the off season.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad about this, man. I don't know when we're going to do this next, just because Tennessee and Florida don't play each other for another 2 seasons.
Oh no, yeah, I didn't even think about that.
That's
Yeah,
true.
like that, like we're not going to have a show to do for that very reason, and it kind of makes me sad. Like,
that is sad. I'm sad we're losing that rivalry. That's a bummer.
Yeah. Now, I'll say this from a Tennessee fan's perspective. Tennessee is the only team that has had to play Florida, Georgia, and Alabama every single year for the past 34 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guess who has won 12 of those national championships and played in 16 of them? All 3 of those teams. It's maddening. It's a part of the reason why Tennessee's had all these nonsensical coaching searches, because one of those teams has been at the top of the college football landscape. It didn't happen as much with Florida because Fulmer was just around for so long, and you eventually had to get him out of there at some point. But Bama and Georgia have both risen up since then, and it gets annoying. So it is nice to have a little bit of a break from that. You are still going to play them every other year, though, so it's not like they're totally getting rid of that.
No, you guys, Florida, Georgia, Bama. We still have to play y'all. Georgia and LSU. So flipping Bama for LSU obviously is a pretty deep difference, but LSU still top of the world, and we're not going to be playing them either yearly. We also got Kentucky, and South Carolina.
You'll be
Kentucky owns us now, man. I don't know. That's tough.
That's so weird.
Okay, it's like been 50-50 over the past since they won us the first time. I wouldn't say they own us. No.
They own us in the Billy Napier era. There's no doubt about that.
That's fair to say. But Tucker, thanks for joining the show. We'll be right back after this quick break to talk about a little bit more of that Lane Kiffin drama.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select a betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.
Oh, that's not how I expected that to be. There we go. Welcome back to Florida Gators Live. Tucker was great, always giving some great opinions about Tennessee football. I'm going to be interested to see who he picks in the Florida-Tennessee game. But we don't have too much time left on the show. I'm going to get into some comments real quick, and then we get into our final segment. Just George Madness here. Indiana offering me $3,000 for my fanship, entering the fan transfer portal. My name is George. I don't know how YouTube changed my name, but it really pisses me off. My name is not Go Gators. It is George. I could get $5,000 out of Miami. I think you get $4 million. That's the rumor price for sellers. Yeah. Maybe just change your name to sellers next time.
That's what Beck got, right? Didn't Beck get 4?
Yeah, okay. I think 4. Sam, I am betting on Florida to win out. I'm happy for Kentucky. Beating us is like winning the national championship for them.
Same for Ole Miss.
Yeah, that was the best environment they've ever had. Tucker was a great guest, super reasonable Tennessee fan. Yeah, he was great.
Tucker's great.
I have no idea how Mark picks these games correctly. I can't even pick one. Maybe if you just didn't pick Florida every single week would be a bit better.
That would probably help, George. Yeah, I don't know. Picking Tennessee every week's not great for the record.
Although I did just pick us to beat Tennessee.
You did.
Maybe
you did do that.
Cranes. Oh, sorry. Okay, I was reading something that was confusing me for a sec. But no, George, Tennessee is going to beat us soon. Beat us badly. But I think the news everyone wants to talk about, this Lane Kiffin drama has kind of got a bit out of hand the past week, especially with the fact that Florida was traveling to play Ole Miss, and obviously Lane Kiffin, the coach there at Ole Miss. Tyler, I just want to get you, what is your thoughts about the Lane Kiffin drama so far here? And I'm not asking you, do you think we're going to get him, but do you think that it's maybe gone a little bit overboard on the timeline?
I mean, my thoughts are that I just want this to be done. I'm ready to fast forward to a resolution of some kind. I mean, it is what it is. Like, we knew he was going to do this. We knew it was going to be exactly like this, with all the trolling and everything and the uncertainty. Like, we knew what we were, the 5 or 6 week plus ride that we were signing up for. But I mean, look, certainly he could end this anytime. Any moment he could end this by either announcing his intentions or signing the extension that's been sitting on his desk. He hasn't done that. Instead, he's going into press conferences and deflecting when asked if he's going to be directly asked if he's going to be the head coach at Ole Miss next year. He's taking, frankly, pot shots at the fans, during a softball question about the program he's built at Ole Miss. So, yeah. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, man. And like, there's definitely subterfuge going on from all sides. Sexton's involved, and Lane just kind of has his own MO here, with just how he kind of likes to troll and be the center of attention. I'm not even saying this critically. It is what it is. That's just how he operates. But yeah, I'm ready for it to be over. But I mean, I know there was some chatter about like something potentially happening today. I don't think that ever really made any sense. The timing of that, like, I think keep your eye on the days following Thanksgiving Saturday. Like, I think, after the Egg Bowl, then, that week plus maybe, I think is when you would probably see anything if it's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, I just think, look, the fact that you got through this weekend, because I mean, obviously if he was going for the full troll of Florida, full maximization would be to announce something like in his post-game interview yesterday.
Or right before the game.
Which he obviously didn't do. And he's continued to hedge and sort of deflect. So, I mean, it seems like Florida's projecting confidence about where it stands. I don't have any information that would lead me to disagree with that. I just think Lane is Lane, and he's kind of a curious cat. And this is just how this was always going to go.
Yeah, and I think a big catalyst of this was on Thursday, Dan Thompson put out a tweet saying, make sure you keep your phones on or something like that for Sunday. And then earlier this morning, he ends up tweeting things got delayed, but he still does feel confident. As Sam here, the guy that said it's happening today, so keep an eye out early this week. Sam, I'm going to say two things. One, when Dan was saying keep your phone out, it wasn't necessarily for the fact that meant Lane was going to sign with Florida or announce he's coming to Florida. Mm-hmm. There are other things in the coaching search. I mean, look what happened yesterday morning with Virginia Tech and James Franklin, where ESPN puts a thing out saying Virginia Tech and James Franklin are in discussions about signing a contract and, him being the next head coach of Virginia Tech. Like, that's something that possibly could have been happening and what he was referring to. And obviously, if ESPN's talking about it, there's legit smoke for it. But we know there's legit smoke for it either way. But still, ESPN kind of takes things to a whole different level. And to the second part, keep an eye out for early this week. There's always going to be new news that comes out. And, another part about this that people could consider going overboard, flight tracking. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the stuff that's happened recently. Tyler, have you seen the rumors from earlier today?
Oh, are you talking about the flight that was bound for the Missouri/Mississippi area? That's what
so that's part of it. Well, so
I'm just laughing at the idea of there being a Missouri/Mississippi area. Like, that just geographically doesn't really doesn't really make sense.
I'll kind of give a quick breakdown timeline here. Around 1-2 o'clock, Ole Miss fans, a lot of these rumors have kind of been started by Ole Miss fans and stuff that's been pro Florida. And the one that was released earlier today was that Layla Kiffin, and Lane's wife and his son Knox Kiffin were in Gainesville. And they said the reason was Layla was visiting and staying with her mom, and But then they also said that this was undercover for them to be house hunting in Gainesville for when Lane signs here. That's kind of where things started. And then it kind of went off control from then on, which some of this stuff could be true, some of it could not be. I've seen a bunch of different flight logs from our UAA planes that are. So I think the one I saw earlier today, the plane comes back from Oxford because obviously they were at the game in Oxford yesterday. It flew to Ocala, back to Gainesville, back to Oxford, back to Gainesville, up to Atlanta or Peachtree, Atlanta, where Jimmy Sexton is, and then back to Gainesville, which kind of would make sense for it to if Layla and Knox were here. Knox has obviously still have school and everything, and I'm not going to get into discussions about what's happening there, but if it were true, obviously them going to Knoxville, back to Florida, or back to Gainesville and Ocala, and then going up to Atlanta, where Jimmy Sexton's offices are, that would be very positive for Florida if that were true.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just say okay. I wasn't sure if you wanted to put that one up, but no, I think I'll just say this. Obviously nothing, it's not a done deal. Like if Lane had signed anything other than maybe not if it was a non-binding memorandum of understanding, but if he had actually signed anything real, it would have been announced. They would have announced it as soon as they're not going to keep you can't keep that hidden. They won't keep that hidden if that were to happen. So as long as that doesn't happen, I mean, I think Florida's in a good spot. I think Florida feels as good as it can for a guy who's not going to make a decision right now. Mm-hmm. But it's Lane, and he's done this before where all signs were pointing to him taking a job and he didn't. So until it happens, there's always going to be a degree of skepticism I'm going to have, but nothing about my confidence has changed in the last week since we did the show.
No, I know everyone I talk to is very confident that this still happens. And, Dan being wrong about, plans changing, things change. From what I've heard and what I've seen, there was something there was an opportunity for something to happen today that fell through and could still end up happening later on in the future. But I expect Lane to be still expect Lane to be our coach. And as you mentioned, after the Egg Bowl is played on a Friday, Gators play Friday at noon, which is even better, more time. And then we play Saturday night, and then maybe something happens Sunday. And I like where things stand for us until I hear otherwise. So I think all this drama kind of just needs to settle down, and we need to let things just play out. I'm tired of seeing everyone overreact to every little detail, every Lane Kiffin tweet. I mean, it's just nonsense at this point.
Did you see that you can't bet on it anymore? You can't. There's on that one sports book you can't bet. Maybe that means something, but I mean all that means is a lot of money started flooding in. Well, I'm saying all that means is that a lot of money started flooding in, and that could mean anything.
Yeah, rumor is he's looking for a $10 million. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Could you imagine the FSU night atmosphere if Kiffin gets announced? That, American dream.
I don't think it would be announced before that game. Honestly, I feel like that's kind of unfair to the current staff and team to do that.
I would agree. I think it's Sunday morning. Maybe it gets leaked Saturday night and is revealed Sunday morning. Mm-hmm. But I think it'd be a bit unfair to them. Although, hey, Billy G and Lane Kiffin had a really good hug type thing after the game, better than what he had with Keith Carter.
Yeah, hope Billy stays on staff. I'm a Billy G guy. I'm a Billy G fan. I like.
Yeah, I am too. But no, Florida basketball is playing right now, so we're gonna go ahead and watch that game. Sorry for a shorter show tonight. I hope you guys did enjoy. Tucker was a really great guest for the show.
Yep.
Make sure you guys go check out the Tennessee show and see his predictions for tomorrow. But before you do so, make sure you guys if you aren't already subscribed to the channel, make sure you do that. Leave a comment. We always like reading the comments here. But thank you guys for watching. We will see you Saturday night. Sunday morning, whatever time we're able to be here after the Gator game against Tennessee. Hope you guys have a great week. Don't try to burden yourself with the Lane Kiffin drama throughout the week, or you're gonna give yourself grace. But if you don't already have them. But thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a great week. We'll see you next time. And as always, go Gators.